Josh Heupel's return to Norman, Oklahoma. The emotions around this one speak for themselves. Like Tennessee, obviously, they're trying to charge towards a college football playoff berth, and this is a massive game for Oklahoma, their first game in the SEC. But I think what's interesting here, not so much the storylines going into it, even though those are massively impactful, and we've talked about those ad nauseum. I think the storylines we could have after this game is what really is intriguing. Tennessee fans and Oklahoma fans, massive, massive game this Saturday night. We want y'all subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. Whoever wins, whoever loses, we're going to react to it, okay? So being dialed in here, being subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel is the best way to make sure you are all the way bought into all things college football year-round. For Tennessee now, this is kind of your Launchpad game, right? Like, I've talked to some folks here in Nashville that are Tennessee fans, and they've kind of all said the same thing. This is the game now where we find out how good we actually are. Like Chattanooga, Kent State, great. NC State, thought would pack a little more of a punch, and it didn't. But a win against Oklahoma on the road, prime time, college game day, all those things. Yes, there's momentum, but I think the confidence and ultimately like the identity-claiming win this could be for the Vols is massive. Because in this way, if you beat Oklahoma and do them, in the sense that you hope to do it, if you're able to win by more than a touchdown, which the spread is right now in Vegas, think about how you view every other game that's not Bama or Georgia. Like, every other game looks very much so winnable. You host Kentucky, and that's the only game on the schedule that I'm like, oh, that looks like a little bit more of an interesting game. You feel pretty good about where you're standing if you're Tennessee. You feel like, okay, the playoff is attainable. Playoff is very, very attainable. Now, on the flip side, if you were to lose this game, there would be sort of this gut punch feel. And I think to go with that, there would be very much so like a missed opportunity feel. Like Coach 30 is just hysterical on social media. He has a phrase he'll use a lot in his videos, which are satirical in nature, breaking down film of previous, I think it's college football for the most part, but also some NFL games, I think maybe. Moment too big, can't handle the moment. That would be the feeling if you're Tennessee. Whether it's actually true or not, because you look at the roster and like, okay, in theory, I think we're further along than Oklahoma. We feel good about where our quarterback's at. We feel good about the advantage we have on the defensive line versus their offensive line. This really is favoring us, not just on the scoreboard, or the spread rather, but this is favoring us on paper as well. And so if we can't get it done here, like kind of the inverse of what we just mentioned, I think you start to look at that college football playoff path and you're really chasing 10-2. Because Georgia and Bama, not saying you can't win those, but those are going to be difficult tasks, so it's going to be a steep climb. And then also I think you probably, at least as the college football public, you sort of start to produce these questions around Tennessee and say, okay, well, how good are they actually? Because they were supposed to win that game. They didn't in Norman. Who did they beat? Well, they beat Chattanooga. They beat Kent State. They beat NC State. And NC State doesn't really look all that good at this point in the year. Would make those first three games feel a little bit hollow. Not insignificant, but it would feel a little bit hollow, and I think we'd be questioning, okay, well, who really is Tennessee? Not saying that they're fraudulent, not saying they're not any good, but I do think you start to say, okay, interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, for Oklahoma, this is an opportunity for them to make a statement, their first game in the SEC. And we said it during our game prediction. I'll say it again. You get one first impression. You get one. Like shaking your significant other father's hand. You don't want to go in there floppy fish. You don't want to grab too early and grab the fingers. It's awkward. Like you get one first handshake when it comes to meeting the SEC. And like I said, a chance now for Oklahoma really to send a message. And it's only week 4, so again, I don't think you plant your flag as like we're going to be the bully of the SEC in this game. But I do think you're able to send the message of like, hey, we're about to be a pain for y'all. We were a touchdown underdog. They came to our place. We're breaking a new offensive line. Got a new quarterback. Yeah, we've been dinged up throughout the course of this year, but like we're about to be a pain for y'all. Brent Venables, I'm sure, will apply some pressure. And if Oklahoma wins this game, like I think we start to recalibrate how we view them in terms of the pecking order in the SEC. Like you look ahead to that game at Auburn, and they got a big one this week against Arkansas. We'll talk about a little bit later in this show as well. But like what it would say about the offense to me is really what I would be honing in on this game. Because the offense for Tennessee really should be scoring points. As good as the Oklahoma defense is, I expect Tennessee to score some points. So if Oklahoma is able to get it done now, again, with a brand new offensive line, I think you start to give a lot of credit to Seth Luttrell. And I think if Oklahoma wins this game, it would be behind the performance of a very, very gritty showing from Jackson Arnold. Like, I think I would leave this game saying, hey, Jackson Arnold now, he's not just a cog in the machine. Like, he can be the difference for you in games where maybe you don't have the advantage up front. Maybe you don't have the advantage on different parts of the matchup, calculator. He can be one of those guys that just breaks the matchup calculator. That could be what you say if Jackson Arnold elevates this team to a win Saturday night. Now, if there's a loss, I think the question around the loss would be, okay, we were a touchdown dog. It is what it is. The eye test plays a massive factor here. Is it a touchdown loss? Is it they lose by 2 touchdowns? Is it a 3-point loss? Like, that matters for sure. But the question that I think we'd start asking is, okay, well, where's the floor for Oklahoma? Because you lost to Tennessee. No one's faulting you for that, but then you got to go to Auburn the next week, pick yourself back up, and you got a couple other games on the schedule. You're like, okay, is Oklahoma better than them? Are they able to, kind of swing momentum back in their direction and find a way to get it done and beat a South Carolina? Are they better than a LSU? Like, we start to wonder where this Oklahoma team falls among the SEC pecking order. And then I think you also look at the games that they've played already. You say, okay, well, that Houston game where they kind of sleptwalk a little bit, and we sort of gave them, I don't want to say a pass, but we sort of viewed them as, okay, they're still trying to calibrate. They're still finding their footing. We viewed that as more of a fluky game, I think, for Oklahoma. If you lose to Tennessee, and it's convincing for Tennessee in terms of like a decisive win on the scoreboard, I think you say, okay, well, shoot, like maybe that was Oklahoma we saw struggle with Tulane, that we saw struggle with Houston. So however you slice it, both for Tennessee and for Oklahoma, to me this is a fork-in-the-road game. And maybe even a better way to put it is like this is a table-setting game for both. For Tennessee, again, I said it, you can't drop this game and feel good about your college football playoff aspirations. That path becomes much more steep. If you're Oklahoma, you can't lose this game and then claim to be a top third team in the SEC. So just so we're on the same page, I think both long-term are in a good spot. I mean, past this season, I was very much so pro giving Brent Venables a new contract. I think that was phenomenal. For Tennessee, Josh Heupel, if you can't win this game, we're not throwing in the white towel. It's a long season, but I'm just saying now, keep an eye on the optics around both teams because the storylines will start to shift very drastically from this one game, and the path for both of these teams going forward will start to shift very drastically from this game that happens Saturday night in Norman.